So, a fresh new week has arrived, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, we saw some historic accomplishments achieved on the court, we saw highly anticipated matchups go down, and the fight for the playoff seeding has raged on, so we definitely have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now. So if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. PrizePicks is a skill-based, real-money daily fantasy sports game where you select 2 to 6 players and guess if they will hit more or less than their projection, and if you get it right, you win! Plus, with their new Demons and Goblins lines, you can now win up to 100 times your original entry. Obviously, we're all basketball fans here, but PrizePicks has almost every sport you can think of available to choose from and play. To add to the fun, they also offer frequent bonuses, discounts, and weekly promotions, such as Taco Tuesday and Flex Friday, plus so many more specialty free spaces to watch for throughout the year, so you don't want to miss those. For today's slate of games, I'm going with Donovan Mitchell to score over 25.5 points, Tyrese Halliburton to make over 2.5 threes, and Victor Wembanyama to block over 2.5 shots in this week's entry. To sign up, go down to the link in the description and use promo code REFERENCE when you sign up to get a deposit match bonus of up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring the video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Jack, and he says that the 76ers are actually his sleeper pick to go to the NBA Finals, because when Joel Embiid returns from his injury, they'll get right back on track. Obviously, this one's a bit of a hot take because in the East right now, there are quite a few red-hot squads that look primed for deep runs, and obviously the Sixers' best player is still recovering from a procedure he had done on his knee. The Sixers have also not even made it to the conference finals in a very long time, so they still have a few hurdles to get over themselves before thinking about a finals run. The same issue they're dealing with now has been at the root of their inability to break through to that next level as well, because in almost every postseason he's played in, Joel Embiid has been dealing with some sort of injury, so his health has never been able to hold up during those runs. Once again, we're sitting here looking at the Sixers as a team whose entire potential lies on Joel Embiid's health. I do actually like a lot of the moves that the Sixers made at the trade deadline to potentially gear up for a playoff run, which is why all of that becomes even more important to monitor. They brought in Buddy Hield for cheap to give them a high-volume floor spacer that will bomb threes to take pressure off of Embiid and Maxey, and even though Hield hasn't been able to play with Embiid yet, the fit between those two on paper seems pretty ideal. They also brought in Kyle Lowry for some locker room leadership, championship pedigree, and sporadic minutes off the bench when needed. It's a roster that was put together to try to compete, so clearly the team still believes that Joel Embiid will return before the year ends. But of course, when you're coming back from an injury like that, you're not always going to just be able to naturally pick back up where you left off. Joel Embiid was the MVP frontrunner, having a historically good scoring season before his injury, and while it's definitely good that he got the work done on his meniscus that he did, it's still going to be an adjustment for him when he gets back out there. I'll say that if Embiid is able to get back to the level that he was playing at before, then the Sixers do, in fact, have a good chance, or as good of a chance as anyone. The Celtics are obviously the favorites to win the East regardless, but the Bucks have been wildly inconsistent this season, especially since hiring Doc Rivers. The Knicks are dealing with injury issues of their own to Julius Randle and OG Anunoby, and the Cavaliers are still an unproven team as a core as well, and you never know which version of the Miami Heat you'll be getting either, so the opening is there for them. If Embiid comes back and it becomes clear that he's still not 100% healthy though, then the Sixers have no shot in the world, and that's just the cold hard truth. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Speedster, and he says that Donovan Mitchell should be the MVP this year. The MVP race doesn't really seem to be getting as much attention this season because there isn't the same level of vitriol in the debates about it. Like, let's be honest with ourselves, after 3 straight years filled with back and forth debates about Nikola Jokic versus Joel Embiid, the injury that Embiid suffered this year kind of took some of the wind out of the sails of the award, because for years, Embiid has been the only one capable of challenging Nikola Jokic, who is just a level above the rest. So without him there, the award seems to be Jokic's to lose. The one thing that keeps Jokic from taking it home this year potentially is voter fatigue, and if that's the case, then the MVP race becomes pretty wide open with a ton of other players looking to earn some votes, if not being just for second place. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is probably the closest one in the running, as he is leading his Thunder team currently in second place in the West while putting up a highly efficient 31 points per game, but I can't get behind putting him over Jokic just for being a better scorer when Jokic is still a walking triple-double, averaging 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists per game, with his Nuggets team also tied with the Thunder in the standings. So it's not even like the Thunder are blowing them away by any means. Giannis Antetokounmpo is once again in the running as a 2-time winner of the MVP award, but with how up and down the Bucks have been this season, he probably isn't a real threat for it. Then of course the original take states that Donovan Mitchell is a dark horse candidate, as he kept the Cavaliers afloat all season long, even during long stretches where they were without Darius Garland and Evan Mobley because of injury, and now the Cavs are one of the hottest teams in the league, sitting in second place in the East. Of course, Mitchell's 28 points per game and the career high in assists that he's averaging this year shouldn't go unnoticed, but it's much more likely that he'll be able to be named first-team All-NBA this year than it is that he'll actually get enough votes to win the MVP award. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Isaiah, and he says that Tyrese Haliburton is a better team player than Luka Doncic, because Haliburton can actually make those around him shine, while Luka holds back the likes of Kyrie Irving and Jalen Brunson. When it comes to Luka Doncic and the slander that he receives, a lot of it does tend to be predicated around the fact that he is an incredibly high-usage guard who has the ball in his hands a lot, and in the eyes of some, as demonstrated by this take, it holds back those around him. The Jalen Brunson example is something people always go to as an example of this, but Brunson is just an example of a player consistently developing more and more every year, and it feels pretty disingenuous to pretend that Brunson back then was as good as he is now. It's equally disingenuous to pretend that Brunson didn't play great basketball while in Dallas. Obviously, Luka Doncic is one of the best playmakers in the entire NBA, so the ball will be in his hands a lot. The Mavericks would be foolish to operate otherwise, but acting like nobody else gets involved around Luka just flat out is not true, and trying to add Kyrie Irving an example of that being the case could not be further from the truth. Kyrie Irving is still scoring a highly efficient 26 points per game this year, looking as good as he ever has. Mind you, when Kyrie went to Boston to play as their team's #1 option, he was only scoring 24 points per game those years. On top of that, his best season in Cleveland saw him only scoring 25 points per game. He's still the same assassin scorer he's always been, playing alongside Luka Doncic, and it's because Luka knows when to defer and when to attack. Is Luka perfect in this regard? No, of course he's not. He still does need to improve playing off ball in terms of his movement, and his defense is still a bit lackluster as well, but going back to the original take, comparing him to Tyrese Haliburton, who is also a pretty poor defender without any of the pedigree that Luka Doncic has as an elite playoff performer, is just insane. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.